Tabi-tabi po. Hello science fans and welcome to SHE-ensya's Corner. Here we kick back, relax, and talk about science events that are scary, exciting, or fun in the life of your resident Filipino scientist. And by the way, have you watched Trese on Netflix? My name is Chana, your resident Filipino scientist, and welcome to episode 24 of SHE-ensya's Corner. Trese is a Filipino comic series written by Budget Tan and illustrated by Kadjo Baldissimo that has been adapted into an animated series in Netflix. It tells the story of Alexandra Trese, a detective who deals with crimes of supernatural origins. It showcases the monsters and entities in Philippine mythology. But have you noticed that a lot of our supernatural entities are actually shapeshifters? What are examples of shape-shifting monsters in Philippine Lower Mythology? Are there examples of shape-shifting in the real world that science has recorded? And if there are, what are the benefits and practicalities of shape-shifting? And why is it that shape-shifting is a common theme across many supernatural myths? Aswang is an umbrella term for various shape-shifting evil creatures in Filipino folklore. The aswang is a subject of a wide variety of myths, stories, arts, and film, and it is well known all over the Philippines. According to Maximo Ramos, the author of the book The Creatures of the Philippine Lower Mythology, the term aswang can be thought of as an aggregate term for a multitude of Filipino supernatural creatures. These creatures can be organized into 5 categories that parallel creatures from other mythologies, but only 3 have significant shape-shifting capabilities. The first category is described in Tagalog as the MANDURUGO, who disguises itself in the shape of a beautiful woman. It has behavior in common with the international concept of the vampire, as its primary diet is blood. However, it differs by sucking blood using a proboscis-like tongue, rather than sharpened teeth. Furthermore, the Mandurugo do not live in tombs or crypts. Some of them live in forests far away from human communities, while others infiltrate villages, sometimes by marrying into the community and slowly draining the blood of their husbands. But some can also decide to hunt in a different village so that they can keep their cover intact. Another category would be the viscera sucker, also known as the MANANANGGAL. It is said to have a diet of internal organs or the phlegmatic discharge of the sick. Similar to the Mandurugo, it consumes its food through its tongue, which is narrow and tubular. By day, it is said that it takes the shape of an attractive, light-skinned, and long-haired woman. By night, it grows wings and segments itself, leaving behind the lower portion of its body as the upper portion takes flight and hunts. It takes great care to hide its lower half, then flies in search for victims. It is particularly attracted to the fetuses growing inside pregnant women. It is said that viscera suckers or the Manananggal prefer to live deep inside forests. But similar to the Mandurugo, perhaps for practicality, some have infiltrated human communities through marriage. Like the Manananggal, the next category, which is the WERECREATURE, infiltrates villages and turns into a creature by night, usually around midnight. A WERECREATURE's form is something that is not too obvious. The most common form is that of a dog, but a cat or a pig are also possible. The WERECREATURE then kills and eats people, particularly pregnant women on the road at night. And the only way to protect yourself if this cannot be avoided is to let your long hair hang loose. A normal human can be transformed into an aswang and develop a taste for human flesh by eating food spat on or licked by a WERECREATURE. Now when it comes to the real world, animals come in all different shapes and sizes, but only a few can change their shape. Also, most of the time, scientifically recorded cases of shape-shifting involve some form of survival mechanism to avoid being eaten, rather than as a means to attack the unsuspecting. Many animals have evolved such permanent adaptations that help them to mimic their environments. The mutable rain frog, for example, was discovered in an Ecuadorian forest in 2006, but it was only recently reported in the Zoological Journal of the Linnean Society because it took several years for a second specimen to be found, and it was only then when its shape-shifting capabilities was discovered. The frog visibly changes its skin in a matter of seconds, completely changing texture from spiny to smooth in a few minutes. The change is so rapid that when the first researcher captured the frog to photograph it, she thought that she got the wrong specimen because for some reason its spines have disappeared. The researchers then put moss in the container with the frog until they could return it to the wild. But when they checked on it later, it had changed its skin texture to spiny again. The team also identified a second frog species, the Sobetes robber frog, capable of a similar shape-shifting behavior. This discovery indicates that this phenomenon could be present in many species of amphibian and is possibly just unrecorded as it happened so quickly. These frogs are the first known vertebrates to shapeshift over a rapid period of time, apart of course from werewolves and our aswangs. The golden tortoise beetle, on the other hand, is capable of changing its color when mating or to blend in with its background and avoid predation, just as specialist color changers such as chameleons do. But wait, there's more! It can also change the finish of its texture from a shiny gold to a dull red. It does this through an optical illusion where tiny grooves in the shell can create a shiny surface when filled with liquid and a dull one when drained. The golden tortoise beetle also undergoes metamorphosis as it transitions from its larval stage to its adult stage, similar to how some caterpillars turn into butterflies. This process of metamorphosis occurs through cells growing and specializing as the beetle grows to maturity and is brought about by hormonal change. And then we have the cuttlefish that are capable of mimicking their background by changing the color, pattern, and texture of their skin. They do this by altering pigments in their skin to change the way it reflects light. Some cuttlefish have even been dubbed as cross-dressers, so they can sneak past other male cuttlefish so they can mate with their preferred female cuttlefish. And then we have the mimic octopus, which was discovered in 1998 off the coast of an Indonesian island and is perhaps the greatest shapeshifter of all. Similar to the cuttlefish, it is capable of mimicking its background environment by changing the color, pattern, and texture of its skin. However, impressively, it is the only animal able to mimic a diverse range of species. At least 13 have been recorded so far, including lionfish, sea snakes, jellyfish, and sea anemones. Most of the impersonated species are poisonous, which gives the mimic octopus protection from predators. But it has also been known to mimic crabs of the opposite sex to lure them in before feasting on them. So, shape-shifting really does happen in nature. It is useful if you don't want to get eaten or if you want to capture what you need to eat. But why does shape-shifting feature so prominently in our mythologies? One possible reason is abstraction. Our ancestors perhaps have seen something similar in their observations of animals and insects and incorporated these into our stories. And then there's that Filipino concept of balat kayo, a person who changes their behavior or perspectives in order to avoid conflict, get what they want, or even hurt others. They are now generally known as plastics, and a lot of people dislike or hate the idea of having them in their community, despite, of course, their prevalence. But then perhaps there is an even stranger truth. Until disproven by science, there might be perhaps entities lurking in the dark, shape-shifting to hunt, and visiting us in our darkest nightmares. And that's it for SHE-ensya's Corner this week. For more updates about the goings-on in SHE-ensya and your resident Filipino scientist, please follow SHE-ensya on Facebook and on Instagram. Drop by our website also at www.sheensya.com. You can also follow my personal Instagram account at shona.abeledo. I hope you were able to enjoy and learn something from today's episode of SHE-ensya's Corner. If you did, I hope you can give this video a thumbs up and also subscribe to our channel. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please don't hesitate to message me, your resident Filipino scientist, in the comments section below. Thank you very much, and see you around!